What makes your heart tick? What spiritual path are you on? What do you believe? Let's dive deep into all things mystical, into the heart of the matter. You're listening to Deep Water with Cheryl, Earth Alchemy. This is Cheryl with Deep Water, Earth Alchemy, and we are here today talking to Joe. Joey is what I like to call him. Joey
Yep.
and I have been shooting the shit for about a year now since he's been on YouTube. I've been pestering him, and so I really wanted to interview Joey. Joey has been a big support in my YouTube journey, and when I found Joey, it was God at the beginning of his journey, right? I think
Yeah,
so. It's
you were
pretty
one of the
soon.
OGs on the channel. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon. And of course, just like how I am, I'm stubborn. So we got along, and then we bumped heads. We got along and bumped heads, and but I think we've smoothed the sails. And and what
Y-
I want to know, Joey, I want to know what makes you tick. Your
Oh,
music and your spiritual side. What makes Joey tick?
okay. Well, what makes me tick, I think, changes from week to week, month to month, even year to year.
Yeah.
Obviously, an overall umbrella would be based in curiosity. That started very, very early in my life. Cryptozoological stuff, Bigfoot and aliens, things like that. The
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
that it's like a gateway for kids into the esoteric. And then that led me into some of the bigger mysteries, discovering that these mysteries of the world, like Stonehenge, is like baby talk compared to like Baalbek, of which we're never told about. So that
Right.
was like a red flag for me to be like, okay, not only are these things mysterious, but the real ones are actually ignored and in a way kind of covered up by some of these lesser sites. And of course, that thirst and curiosity ended up uh, being me as the guy on the job site or at the party who would go on these rants of this mystical weird stuff uh, that would always be infused with funny, because my two favorite passions. Well, I got three. My three passions
Yeah.
are uh, are the mysteries, music, and stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy
Oh,
being the one thing that I've never actually done,
your
but
dad
it
joke.
it, it runs in my veins, though. So I would be at the guy at the party talking about weird stuff, and people would kind of like gravitate as I'd be ranting, and that would happen on the construction site as well. I was never shy about these things. I'm very extroverted, as you read in my birth chart, actually,
Yeah.
before you even knew that I was. And that came to fruit whenever me and my son decided to make a video, and which we weren't taken seriously. And then when that went viral, we did it more for fun, still kind of not quite serious. But
Right.
then after I became not a one hit wonder with that viral video, I was like, you know what? I'll make this my job. And
Well, it's a good job to have. You're doing a great job as
thank
it
you.
being your job.
Right.
So let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
Your music, like
Mhm.
you were doing music before you start your YouTube channel, right? Way
I've been
before,
doing
right?
music for forever, my whole life.
And when did that start?
Um, I think I put my hands on a piano before I was verbal, which is
Oh
hard to
yeah.
believe considering that how yappy I am. But I wasn't necessarily good, but before I was verbal, I was tapping on a piano. Maybe even as a form of communication. That's too early for me to remember. But
Well, it's a form of expression.
yes, right.
Yeah.
So ignoring all sheet music, all music theory lessons and all that stuff, I just started, collecting instruments and making music. It started out, I'd get like a this cheap karaoke machine, like with the two cassette tapes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think some musicians might know what I'm talking about, where you switch the tape and then you record over the one and you switch them again and then you record over the one. And I would just like, I would hit on like beat washing machines and
Yeah.
record big bang noises and then eerie keyboards and stuff and just kind of elaborated from there until I eventually, you know, built like a music studio
How
and
old were
stuff.
you when you got in your first band?
How old was I? Or
Yeah, your first band.
oh, I think I was 16 whenever
16.
I had a band called Subset, and we were like kind of a Linkin Park type of type of thing going on. And then I got into metal, and then I
Yeah,
started doing black metal bands. I've been in several bands since, and then fast forward to today, no band to be found.
no band. But you
I
have
was eagerly seeking musicians to play with, but they don't exist anymore. They're either dead or they've got 5 kids or they're on drugs.
well, or they've had a lot hard life. You know, we get older and things just
Right,
happen. You know, life happens before we can
right,
even think about it. You know,
right.
and so like when I found you, it was your lyrics, a couple of like "Sage of Amnesia," the song "Sage of Amnesia." You know, so and those lyrics, I don't know, something about them touched me. It was like I said on my post about you, it's kind of like you were a lyrical god, not in the sense that I'm going to worship you, Joey, but in the sense
Of
that
course.
it's coming out from somewhere
Yeah.
godlike,
There
you
there's
know?
a tapping into source that takes place with the
Yes,
lyricism and with the music too. Uh
right. And I want to know what made you tap into that. What path led you there?
into that song in particular. Um
Sorry, my
well,
dog's growling.
I that was I that was when I first started getting back into cleaner music.
Hmm.
That was so I was in like Human Pollution, for example, which is all over YouTube. Human Pollution music videos can be found to this
Yeah.
day, and those are very grotesque and very vulgar. And
Hmm.
some
Oh yeah.
people are going to hear that right now and be like, "Oh, how vulgar could it possibly be?" And then they're surprised when they actually look at it. They're like, "Oh, this," you know. And then after a long career of DMT usage and prayer and meditation and several other things that I kind of found out that I had to do for to even get by. I started realizing that that form of music, as powerful as it is as an expression, is all it is kind of a yelling and a shouting at the world, almost like a "Hey, look at me" type
Well,
deal.
or if you take a look at your buddy Carl,
Yeah,
psychology, it could be a
right.
form of shadow work.
Yeah, that's
So that's what I
it's
like of heavy metal
essentially
for. Yeah.
it was essentially completely that,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
I wanted to do something that was a little bit more honest,
Uh-huh.
and Sage of Amnesia was the one of the first songs written for Dimension Knot. That the entire album is a concept album capturing my journey of DMT use over the course of those 2 years that I was doing it.
Okay. Okay. So DMT, see, I've listened to a lot of it and I didn't get DMT from it.
Right,
I got something that was away from more of a right brain cosmic, and
right.
like, that's what I got
That's
from it. But I
that's
wasn't stepping in your shoes either. I was, of
No,
course.
yeah, no, that's a perfect thing to say because that's the thing about DMT is at no point does it actually come up that it is DMT. The whole
Mhm.
point of DMT is, first of all, disclosure. It's
Mhm.
instant disclosure for anybody who has doubts that any of that there's unseen worlds,
Right,
and then
right.
after the acceptance of disclosure comes the integration of wanting to understand what's going on in those outside realms, and then of course the third step being the latter part of the album, being that the acceptance that you're not going to understand the workings of those unseen realms. So the best thing that you can do is understand what's going on within, and
Hmm.
in a way come back full circle to find out that that was the point of the DMT all along. So at no
Right.
point within the album would I reference that that is what's going on, like in that Tool song Rosetta Stone, where he like directly says like this is my DMT whatever, but
So it's like
instead,
it's like the Ouroboros. It's you going in and eating yourself to become
yes,
one.
right. The
So
characters that I'm speaking to in the lyrics are my literal interactions with entities, beings, or whatever you want to call them,
Uh-huh.
out on the unseen worlds, of which are still a mystery to me. I have my own theories, but of course, I don't think anybody is ever going to be able to map out exactly what those things are. You know,
Right.
I think I think with DMT we are allowed to experience raw reality, but it is filtered through our psyche and our physiology. So
Definitely.
we are able to experience it without our limitations of five senses physically, but of course the psyche, which is why you can have a really bad trip, funnels through that, and then you experience it like as a reflection of yourself, which can be very frightening.
Right, right. Well, with my experience, I haven't done DMT or ayahuasca in a good 10 years, but with my experience, DMT was like straightforward, get you there, you know.
Yeah,
Ayahuasca was a little bit more step where because once you get to the peak, it's a little bit more extreme than DMT because it lasts longer, right?
right,
So,
right,
like, it's like step by step. You've got to knock when you're doing ayahuasca, you've got to knock on the door and you step into and, check out that little area, then maybe knock again. It's that ladder that we go up, to get to Mother Aya,
right,
and ayahuasca. When I did ayahuasca, the day after, I felt so good and so happy and just refreshed and cleansed, and so I completely get that feeling and that thought. But back to the
right.
music.
Sure.
You in your YouTube, your writing of your lyrics. So,
Hmm.
like, you go into great detail and a lot of work with the editing of your videos for your YouTube videos. Do you think your music has helped you with that along the
Oh
way?
yeah, oh yeah, huge head start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and my channel would be barbaric at the beginning of its journey had I not had a long career of writing, editing, and making videos for music, which
right,
of course all came from, they say that a have to or a need is the innovation of all creativity. Obviously I didn't have the money for studio time, I didn't have the money for a production video company, and I of
right.
course couldn't depend on people to be in bands and to collectively work on these things, so I was forced to do everything myself. And whenever I started my YouTube channel, all of those skills poured directly into that pretty much automatically. And now the videos, of course, have gotten better in production as they've
Oh
gone,
yeah,
but it's a
yeah,
huge step up. And I think people appreciate that instead of having just a, a bland stock music thing going throughout their YouTube video. I
yeah.
actually write the scores for the YouTube video to reflect the mood of what I'm talking about. So it kind of
Right.
makes it kind of like a movie,
Well,
you
and
know?
that's where I really appreciate that part of your videos because I'm a big music fan. I'm not a musician. I like to dance. So
Mhm.
I really like the build up and then the come down and then the ease
Yeah.
into it. And of course, I've been trying to, you've helped me with some of music you're not using to put in my little intro,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to be like a Joey, but I don't have, of course, I'm not a musician. But
I'll
anyway,
send you all the music I got. You can feel the free
all
to share.
right. And, it's all good. Some of it that I listen to is a little too heavy. It's scary. I have a neighbor. I scared him. I was listening to the Children of the Deep, and I was like,
Right.
I am summoning.
So
I was like, what is it?
yeah.
Summoning great one. I was all singing along like I do, and he was like, whoa, it
Right.
scared him.
That is actually sidereal, and that is my like my black metal side project
Yeah.
with Jason Barron of Harkonnen, and that's actually a concept album too about Lovecraft, and a person that goes through a journey of meeting these Lovecraft creatures. And if anybody loves metal, that we capture, I think,
It's
every
really
kind
good.
of
It's
metal.
hard. It's heavy.
Yeah,
I like it, but
yeah,
I'm not your typical girl. I really like heavy stuff. But
of course.
like music has changed so much over the years. Like, what do you think you've pulled and in your music genre, who are your favorite artists?
Oh boy. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna. This is. It's impossible. It's an impossible question, but I'm
Oh,
gonna off the top of my head.
okay.
Okay. Counting Crows is number
Oh,
one.
Oh, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, yeah. August and everything after that, the album literally shaped my being. Like, you
Uh-huh.
know,
Yeah.
um, 21 Pilots is my current all-time favorite. Like that doesn't make sense, current all-time. But and then Cradle of Filth, of course, Cattle Decapitation on the heavier side of things are a huge influence on me. Oh boy, Corn growing up. Not
Corn.
so much
Yeah.
anymore, but I've always enjoyed Corn. Uh Bands I don't like is a little bit more interesting because people
Okay.
don't expect it.
What
Slipknot
is it?
sucks.
The Slipknot. I know you don't like Slipknot.
Yeah, I don't understand why people like Slipknot. If they didn't look so cool and there wasn't an army of them, there'd be
Well, it
nothing
is
to it.
a show. It's kind of
It's a
like
show.
like people, you understand your birth chart a little bit, right? So like when a band makes a band, you can do a birth chart on a band and see how
Yeah,
that play out. So they could be like with your birth chart, you have Sagittarius in the seventh house, so everybody loves you. You're extroverted. People, kind of
I don't know
interact
about
with
that
you real
first part.
fun, huh?
I
What
don't
was
know
that?
about that first part.
Well, they're drawn to
I
you for some
I get
reason.
it.
You have a
Yeah,
lot going on over there, but like that could be a part of that as well. You can't just say you don't understand why people like them for. I liked them back in the day, not so much anymore because my music
right,
taste has changed. But yeah,
right.
Slipknot back in the day was heavy. I've seen them a couple of times. I almost got
Oh,
smashed in the
really?
pit. Yeah,
That
so
might be
like,
what it is. It might be something you got to see to get it. Maybe I don't
oh, if
get
you've
it.
never seen them, they put on a really good show. They hype up the crowd. You're just like, it's
Right.
fun. But as far as the music, do I think they're the best musicians out there? No, I think one of my favorite bands would be Tool.
Yeah, that's one of
So
mine.
yeah, so like, so 10 years ago, would you ever thought you'd be here today?
Oh no, no. Oh my goodness. And that's a great question because not at all. I didn't have it in the cards.
Hmm.
I didn't expect to make anything big. I did music, but I also understood the music industry. There's no room. You're not
No.
squeezing into it. It ain't happening unless you have $100,000. Then you can give that to a record label, and they'll put you on tour with somebody like you, and then maybe you can sell a few records. But that cycle is not worth it.
Or you
It's
could go to a
awful.
Diddy party.
Yeah, right. And then end up on that hit list, you know. But no, and then doing so having the first video go viral and then a couple other ones go viral was a surprise. What was a bigger surprise was getting 100,000 subscribers in under a year. I did not realize that was even possible for
Right.
people. And in fact, whenever I Googled it, I Googled that it is in fact not, it's not something that happens.
Do you
In
want my
fact,
thought on that?
sure.
My thought on your Saturn video, your first Saturn video. Okay,
Mhm.
as someone who's really into astrology, I saw Saturn, and that's why I clicked
Right,
on that. But Saturn is a big motif in the esoteric occult
right.
world, like the black sun, the square, and with you being a
Right.
Capricorn, that makes sense to me
That was
because
weird. I didn't know any
yeah.
of that stuff, by the way, until you told me that.
Right, right. And so like I can see why, because you tap like not with just the music, but with the videos, you tap into something people don't usually get. People
Right.
are wanting more to it, not just the basic knowledge of it. You're asking questions, you're even if they're not correct, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're still
Right.
asking
Well, yeah,
questions, you're still curious.
that's kind of the theme of the entire channel is
Right.
no one seems to let it sink in that
Hmm.
our entire world view as a species is completely flipped upside down about every 30 years. So every 30 years comes a scientific discovery where everybody on earth has to collectively go, okay, I guess we go around the sun now. It wasn't like that before. Or it turns out that atoms are not real, they're not made out of matter, they're just energy. And it's like those things keep happening, and every time it happens everyone thinks it's locked down now. They're like, now that you're born into it, it seems like that now we have it figured out and the next one's coming. So we have to continue hypothesizing, we have to keep speculating about what else might be, and that's
Right.
very important and a big big part of that comes from actually paying attention to mythology, because all of it is coded right there in mythology. In fact, the Bible itself is like a neurological manual. It's a lot of those things in the Bible are about the brain, quite
Well,
literally,
and
the
it's
anatomy.
symbolism. A lot of it is
Right,
symbolism, and I could see where it would trigger certain, like, frequencies in people. Words do the same thing. So, like,
right,
with your channel, you're not just one topic. You're just not like a one station radio. And you're
right,
moving around different topics, different
right,
frequencies, guessing, like asking questions about things that most people don't talk about. And if it's been a topic that's been talked about, you dive a little bit deeper into a
right.
different perspective, looking at it through a
It
different lens.
always got to be a twist. Always.
Right,
I'll have
right,
a
right.
video in mind for months and not do nothing with it because I'm not going to be a reporter. But then something will happen all of a sudden, like Coral Castle. I've known about Coral Castle for a long time. I shouldn't mention this because the video's not out yet. It'll come out on the 13th or 14th. But I've known about Coral Castle. The guy erected those big stones by himself. Amazing, cool. I was like, but I don't have a video. But then I found out a nugget about Coral Castle that changes everything. And nobody knows about this. And I was like, okay, now I got a video and I can't wait for
Now
you to
you
see
got a
it.
video. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what would you consider yourself as in your spiritual path? Would you be agnostic? Would you be gnosis?
I'm definitely
Hermetic?
not, I'm definitely not agnostic because
Okay,
because God is real.
right,
And the reason people think that God is not real is because all of the scientific studies that are done that egotistically prove that God is not real, what they're actually doing is proving that a man with a beard doesn't live in the sky. And it's very amazing to me how often people fall for that. Science, what they do is they create a word for something, and then it's defined, like DNA. And now that we
right.
have a word for it, we think we understand it. We don't. I've talked to so many people who think we know what DNA is. They think that because we named it. We
Right,
don't
right.
know what it
We
is. We
are
have no idea
right. We're
what
always
it is.
looking at it from a materialistic
Right.
view of it.
Right.
So,
We don't know
yeah.
what the sun is. We don't know what plasma is, but we made a word for it, so we think we know what it is. That's what's very intriguing to me. So we made a word for God, and we called it God. We call it Jehovah
Mhm.
or whatever you want to. And so basically, a scientist comes on the screen, usually Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they'll be like, "Well, we know that God doesn't exist because we have this and that in the Big Bang," and you're like, the Big Bang, huh? That's what does it? Because last I checked, that's a fucking miracle. So what are we doing? Like, it's science is so pompous about that. By the way, I love science and I love the scientific method, but today's materialist dogma that we call science tends to
Mhm.
forget the scientific method. They throw out anything that doesn't fit the materialist dogma. And as Terence
Right.
McKenna said it most elegantly, with the Big Bang, science is kind of like, give us one miracle and we'll explain the rest of them. The
We'll
fact
take
that
everything out of it.
right. The fact that scientists talk about the Bang alone, right there, is enough to let me know that they have no business talking about God whatsoever. But your question was more specific than that, which is what is my so what I the only answer I can think of for that is that I am refusing categories, which
Okay.
itself is going to end up, it could, if I was to refuse categories long enough and it caught on and more people did that, yeah, that itself would become its own category, which I see the irony in that. But
Right.
no, I'm not Gnostic because I just saw a butterfly outside. It was fucking beautiful. And so to me, that throws out the whole concept of material being evil. That doesn't make any
Right.
sense. I understand the hardships of living within the fall, but
So, you would be more hermetic, correct? More
I,
like you can't create
if you
your own reality of sorts.
if you're twisting my arm, I would utter the word hermetic, but
Well, you know
her
me.
hermetic hermetics, applies to all of them. That's how I feel. I
True.
might be wrong.
Well, true, but there would be like when you work with hermetics, I would see it as more of like not Christian in the sense of like, like in the way I would work with hermetics is say like you have the tree of life, in the Kabbalah tree of life, you would work with the planetary motions and transits, and you work your way up to netter, like up
Mhm.
to the cosmos, but you can't do that just here on the material plane, Malkuth, I feel
Right.
that we are, I don't really believe in original sin. I feel that the fall was the spark of life, which it would be God source, whatever,
Right.
you know what I mean? And working as hermetic, I would work with planetary movements,
Right.
so.
Right. And I agree with you that I also don't believe in a so-called original sin either, but I
Mhm.
do think that there is something to that that's been misunderstood and passed down as
Right, for
misunderstood
sure,
for
for
so
sure.
many generations that it was something but is no longer known. And to me, Hermeticism and Christianity are not different, which is a really controversial thing to say.
It
But
is.
the reason, I mean, okay, if you're familiar with Agrippa, right?
Uh,
He,
keep on, keep on.
he did a really good job of actually, I got this right here. Oh, and this was written by Dr. Justin Sledge of
Okay, yeah,
Esoterica, and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
sent to be. I can't. This keeps moving. It was sent to be
Yeah.
by Nikki 2K as part of our friendly community. Uh, and so, I mean, I've known about Agrippa, but reading that, he breaks down the continuance of Hermetics into Christianity. As we know, Hermetics predates Christianity, of course,
Right, right.
but he believes that Hermes and Asclepius to be divinely inspired, the same way as the Bible might have been, and
Well,
he
right.
connects the two together in an absolutely brilliant way.
Well, I need to read that. I'm on the Corpus Hermeticum, and it's like always talking about the monad and the cup, and the that what God is would be like that source energy. It's not like a man in the sky looking down on us, no,
Right,
but it's something that's created all of this, not just Earth, and
right.
so like so if there are aliens, God created those too. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Exactly. And that by the way, I'm glad you said that because just to rewind just a little bitty bit
Uh-huh.
about science that denies God. I forgot this
Yeah.
part, very important, is the biggest proof of God existing in the first place is evolution. And it's very simple if you actually take a definitive look at it, because people will say, oh, there's no God because we see evolution. That is the most ignorant thing I can possibly think to say. Because what do you think that particular species has decided to change? They didn't decide to change. A giraffe grew a long neck over time because the trees were too high, or these thumbs that we got here. At no point did any species say, you know what would come in handy? We need a thumb, and decide to implement that. There is an intelligence deeply woven in the fabric, in the flesh of all beings that causes evolution. Cicadas are proof of this. They do Fibonacci mathematics. It's very complex. Not one cicada is deciding to do those mathematics, but the entire species as a whole has a collected intelligence that makes it decide to do that. Evolution is no different. If you want proof of God, that's it. Evolution. No one said that creationism had to be a painting, like a one and done. There it is. Now it'll
No,
never
no,
change.
and that's what I like about hermetics and
Right.
how I view it is that it's not. It's like all encompassing. Everything is God. The
Right.
rock, the shoe, the dog, the
Exactly.
owl. Everything is God, and everything, even the evilness, because God, is not evil. We as humans can be evil.
Right. Right.
That's where a lot of people I think get confused and like they get mad at God because how could you do this to me, God? And when that's
Right.
not what God's here to do.
Yeah. No one ever
So
said that God was all good. In fact, that wouldn't make any sense, because where does bad come from? God has to be a monad. He's the
right,
totality of all things. People are
right,
always like, if there's a
exactly.
God, why is there so much suffering in the world? You're like, because God wants to fucking suffer. He
Well,
no
yes,
no
exactly.
right.
That well, they
There's
say
no
like
way.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We can look at it as like the big IMAX theater, like, like where God is here to live through us to
Yes.
expand consciousness,
Yes. And
and
expand
that's
his
where
own
every
consciousness.
experience counts, good and bad.
Exactly. Right. That's why
So,
like the book of Job is so
simulation
important.
theory.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Next, we're going to talk about simulation theory. Now that we're here,
yay.
simulation theory. Go for
Um,
it.
so that's a fun one because, again, like I said earlier, all of these new scientific theories and hypotheses can go right back to mythology. Because
Hmm.
if you want a thorough, complete definition of simulation theory, look no further than the Hindu Brahma, that we live within the dream of the Brahma. That it by, I mean, every part of simulation theory, you break it down piece by piece, there's a Hindu equivalent of it, and it's fascinating. You
Yeah,
know,
I haven't gotten into that part of it, but simulation's interesting to me because that goes along with the material world that we view it as in numbers and stuff like that, and that's what I don't really get down with it because I see it as something that is unknowable. So like
right.
simulation, I correlate simulation theory with a computer, like someone's up there
Okay.
programming us. You know what I
Well, we
mean?
live in a sci-fi age, so if
True.
we live within another a larger being's dream, and we interpret it as such, and living in a sci-fi age, that's how we're going to see it as computers. That's what we have now. That's why we see UFOs. They look like PS2s up there. They used to look like ships, and before that they looked like air balloons. And in the 1980s they had colorful blinking lights. That's the
Well, I
80s.
saw a UFO in '98. So like,
Really.
and it was a ball of light kind of going around, it was,
I
and you
think,
could
yeah,
see the
those are the
thing that,
most, yeah, the plasma balls I think are the most objective ones.
but I
And
could actually see a being in there. It wasn't just the ball. You could see, it was like, the lights get brighter on the thing when they don't want to be seen, but when they want to be seen, they can lighten up in certain areas.
yeah,
That kind of
right.
thing. So it was like symbiotic too. It didn't feel like a ship. It feels like a electromagnetic field.
That's
So
where I'm aiming. That's where I'm aiming with that. And considering that the leading hypothesis with that so far is plasma, which again we don't
mhm.
know what it is. So I hate to just throw the word out there because it seems like an explanation. It's not. But what we do know about plasma is that if you come into contact with it, it causes electromagnetic surges within the human body that causes hallucinations. Those
Oh,
hallucinations will cause us to see mechanical, whatever the age is that we are in, we're going to see that. And with uh, with the Greys the uh, entering the scene with Whitley Strieber, and I think there was one before him. That's easily what we're going to be seeing nowadays as well. So but there's also other hypotheses about where the Greys originated in the first place. For example, if plasma is making you hallucinate and you have a birth memory, your eyes as a newborn baby are very hazy. So if you see a doctor with a mask and big eyes and the room is bright, and you laid on a cold table, that's an abduction experience.
oh, right.
Right.
Just
I mean, so
pull it
there's a
right out.
million different ways we could go with it, but at the same time, the balls of plasma, I think they're alive. And that's not just something I think. Robert Temple thinks that. Andrew Collins thinks that. A lot of scientists are
And
yet to
you
come
and you feel
forward.
that way they're alive in the sense that there's a consciousness to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that they are. I think that they are conscious, aware of themselves, intelligent, and far more so than we are. In fact, I think that they were here first. In fact, well, I mean, of course they were here first. In a way, I think that plasma might have planted life onto Earth, and that's actually the story of Genesis. That if you were to look at it scientifically, that is that it started with plasma, and
It makes sense.
the right. The electrons and the ions and the particles that are described in science that make up plasma are the same as the monad, the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the
Right, the
Sophia and
Trinity.
stuff like that. Right. Because we have male and female aspects of these particles.
Right,
And
right.
it takes, I think, a little bit of a stretch of an imagination, but not a stretch of logic to connect those two things together. You know?
Okay, so right. Um, where do you see yourself going in 5 years?
Oh man. Ah, this is a drastic change. Oh my God.
Well,
I keep
we got to
my
keep them surprised.
my car is breaking down, so I'm gonna have to replace that. Um, in
Well, I don't
five
mean there.
years,
I don't mean your car,
yeah,
but
okay. My goal is
Mhm.
right now I'm teamed up with Anthony of Lentini Productions, and he is the one who brought us the intro for Ringmakers
Uh-huh.
and Maps of Meaning, and we're going to continue working together in the future. My plan is is for the channel to get big enough that I make enough money to travel to these sites and do my little walk and talks that I don't do, but I did in Ringmakers and I loved it. And
It
it
was
got a
really
great
good.
response.
It was really good. You could see the transition. If you go to your very first video to the last video, that
Right,
one, you could see the quality of production, the
right,
ease that you feel now compared to then.
right.
So
Oh,
like it's really nice. It's really nice to watch you grow and grow as a person in the process of all this.
right.
And I do feel like you've grown spiritually through all this. What has made, I mean, these steps doing your YouTube channel, like how do you feel with your Dark Night of the Soul to today? How far in your spiritual development have you think it's gotten you? You understand what I'm
I
saying?
still get my ass kicked in meditation
Hmm.
and breathing exercises. And so a lot of people don't realize this, but there are certain yogic practices you can do, including breathing exercises, that will cause you to have a hallucinatory experience.
Hmm.
And every time I come to a point where I'm further along in my spiritual journey, I realize that I'm not. And I could sit here and tell you all day all of the beautiful golden things that
The
that
spiritual journey
whatever.
is not supposed to be beautiful. It is
Right,
supposed to be about learning things, right?
right,
Your shadow work. Where have
right,
you like realized who you are as a person through all this?
right. One of them is uh, it's it's like a I don't even know. This is how bad I am at it because I can't think of the word patience. I can't think of the word because it doesn't even enter my damn vocabulary. I have no patience. I
Hmm.
can't go fishing. And in order to meditate, I have to do the breathing exercises and the hot bath and all that stuff to be able to make it work. And patience is not a strong point for me. I'm a workaholic, and I
You
also
are. You are.
I get real bad anxiety if I take any time off at all, even if it's after something where I deserve to take some time off. I always think of, whenever there's a storm, the ships are stuck at dock. They can't go fishing, but they sit there and they maintain their nets. And so it's like I'm always having to go on to the next thing, and I won't let
Well,
myself rest.
your
I feel
birth
guilt.
chart. Your
Yeah,
birth chart,
yeah.
you are like the very not deacon or decan, but the very first degree of Capricorn. You were saying you were a cuss baby
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I first started talking to you. So you were actually like the very first of Capricorn. So your lessons are going to be about work, and that
I wish I could let it go sometimes. I don't.
right. But
It's a pain in the
it'll
ass.
get easier. But since you're that very beginning of Capricorn, like seriously, the very first degree of Capricorn, work is a big part of your life, and maybe that's why you feel that you're anxious all the time about work because you want to
Right.
get it done, you want to do it,
It's
you want to
yeah.
do it.
It's not just anxiety. It's anxiety at first, but if I do rest, it turns to guilt, and that guilt is really heavy. And again, it's something where I could uh, candy coat it and code over it and be all like act enlightened or whatever, but I'm far from it. And there's certain parts of myself, man, there was once upon a time I thought I knew who I was, and I was proud of that. And I was
Mhm.
just fucking dead wrong. And that's all there is to it. And
Yeah.
so I continue on with that, and everybody is witnessing it as I go. And
It's good to
I
see
found
you.
myself very comfortable with that.
Well, it's good to see. And it's good that you put yourself out there the way you've done it. The way you interact with your following is really nice to see. You don't see that in an everyday YouTube page or channel. You
Yeah,
know, you,
it
you,
fuels
you
me.
they love you as far as in, they send you stuff. They really interact with you, and that's really good to see. Like I
I
said, you
love
don't
it.
see that very often. And I
Anytime
can
I'm
see
feeling
why,
down on myself, I take a break and I read the comments. And I mean, tell me another YouTuber who, when he needs some good inspiration, can read the comments. Get the fuck
Right,
out of here, right?
right,
There was
right,
rule
right.
number one is never read the comments, bitch. I go through those comments and I eat that shit up. Now, of course, there's one in 100 that are very nasty, but
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it just means I'm doing something right,
Well,
you know?
crabs in a bucket.
Yeah. The one of the
So
biggest ones. Oh my god. So well, before the next thing,
you're
uh
good, good, good.
there I had before the plasma thing was huge, I did
Mhm.
some plasma episodes because I read Robert Temple's work. By no means am I the one who discovered this, but I certainly, I'll say with confidence, I think the first on YouTube to have an entertainment show that covered plasma science. Other videos at the time were just Robert Temple giving like a talk, not even a TED talk, but like whatever. So I did my 3 plasma episodes in a row, and I
Mhm.
got really good responses. But then at the time I had a guy making shorts, and I really wish I had him back because I can't stand making shorts, but I have to. Um, but he made a short for one of the plasma videos that was me talking about some verified, actual, vindicated scientific studies of plasma being conscious, focused on which about the Kordylewski clouds on either side of the moon, which are a fact. Oh my God, people lost their fucking minds, dude. People were like, this is why YouTube needs censorship. And now this is why, because this guy he's obviously lying. He's making it up. One comment even said, in this case, we have to kill the messenger. That's what the comment was.
I've
The
had
messages were,
comments.
it was
People are
so bad.
rude.
Yeah, the guy quit. My guy
People
who
are
made the
rude, man.
shorts.
I had a comment. I was reading the Corpus Hermeticum and be like, "Is this real?" Like I
Right.
was making that up. Like I was
You're
lying
right.
about the book or something. Like I have the book in my hand. Like what?
It's crazy. So this is a tough job for both of us. Dude, keep going. You're on the right side of history.
Well,
Always.
like I decided that, like I told you earlier, with my birth chart, my third house North Node Scorpio, that I want to really interview people. I have a lot of knowledge, and I've been into this stuff for a long time now. But what I really like is getting to know people, and what
Yeah.
their beliefs are, and how they tick, and what makes their heart beat, and so that's why I wanted to interview you. I wanted to interview for my first one because you have helped me along the way, and you have
You
been a huge
too.
support.
It actually, but you are I think, the one. I mean, there's a lot of parts of it, but if I was to hone it to one individual person, the person who made me realize that astrology is not the strip mall horoscopes that we've been
Oh no.
tainted with all along. And I was in the middle of the pranic breathing exercise when it just all of a sudden, like all at once, your words turned into a download, I guess would call it download. That was like, the planets are a hard drive. That's it. You're the software. The planets are a hard drive. And it was like,
Right, and
oh,
the
that's
energy that
what
they give
made
us.
it right. That's what made it like click into place. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's simple, you know?
And it really is simple when you actually know your birth chart, and like I've been working with my own birth chart for a long time. So like with the transits, I can tell like what I need to do when we're having certain transits because I know where it hits my placements in my natal chart. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big deal when you get to know astrology and like not just your, I want to say not mundane, because that's a different type of astrology, but when you get to know your just average birth chart, you can understand why you feel the way you do on certain things, on
Right.
certain days, with certain
Right.
moons, and that helps you with that kind of thing. So like, and that's what I love about astrology.
Yeah.
So.
It wasn't more than 2 weeks ago that I was having like a panic attack or something. It was out of the blue.
Hmm.
And I mean, I've had stress things before or whatever, but it was an unexplicable panic attack to where there was no cause to it. I didn't understand it whatsoever. And like I went outside and there was just this big orange bitch right there in the sky. It was Mars and it was
Oh.
close. It was just like
Mm.
hello, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, it's
Mhm.
you, isn't it?
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
I just need
Mhm.
to give you a couple days, and
You
that
just need to just say, "Hey, we're buddies. Just give me what you got."
I don't know. I did the feeling continued on for like, and it was the same thing recently with like the Saturn thing, and again, I didn't know it was happening, and but I felt it, and I thought there was something wrong, and then I found out. I think that Saturn one was from you. You were like, yeah, it's coming in hot. It reminded me of the Tool song, "The Grudge," and
Well, that's why I love Tool, because it
right,
is all about it. If you really get into Tool and listen to their lyrics, and
right,
it's totally about all this stuff.
yeah.
So,
You think you got anything at all figured out, or maybe you're comfortable in life and Saturn comes swooping through and lets you
right.
know that you don't, and you should be scared because the universe is infinite and you have no idea what it is and you don't know where
Well,
you're
see,
going.
well, like with you and your placement with Saturn and your work, it's more like pay homage to Saturn, and
Right,
Saturn will help you along the way. So you love
right,
your work, and that's probably a good thing that you've moved from Glazer to a YouTuber, because you actually like doing it. It brings out your feminine nature, as far as in your
yeah,
artistic, your music, and all of that. And so, like,
yeah,
I think that the more you look into all of this, the further you'll go with your life
sure.
and your spiritual path.
Absolutely. There's connections that I would have never made before had I not actually did the work to looking into it. Because, of course, it goes without saying that the channel moved me from just casually browsing through books, reading for pleasure, to actually
Hmm.
searching for things that ended up being long term connections that I otherwise wouldn't have would have never occurred to me, you know?
Right, right. So we've got about like 12, 13 minutes or so. A
Okay.
couple questions. Your music. Do you think you'll be doing any more music, or is it just going to be for the show?
Okay. So this is a great question because you know about synchronicities, and that's kind of what I try to flow with, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I recently started recording entire songs again instead of just scores. And
Uh-huh.
one of them, I did an Alanis Morissette cover of You Ought to Know. And I made it orchestral. It's not metal, it's orchestral and ambient and tribal. But I'm just really exploring, and I made that. And there was a friend of mine who is psychic, and people can roll your eyes all you fucking want. She's not professional. She doesn't make any money, but I've witnessed her abilities, and I'm not here to argue about it. That's just
And you
part of the story.
shouldn't. We're
Yeah,
all kind of psychic in a way.
right. But well, by the way, her name is Deborah Monique Fisher, and she's written a couple books, not about psychic stuff. She writes fiction novels, but she doesn't
That's
flaunt
cool.
her abilities. But I see in it, and she contacts me often about. She was the one who told me that these synchronicities I was having about getting out of glazing were real. By she One time I put mirrors up in somebody's
Hmm.
house and they
Hmm.
fell. I did them to the book and they fell off. And she contacted me like unprovoked. She was like, "Did you have something happen at work?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "It was in a mirror." I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "The last thing it saw was you as a glazer." And I was like, "Oh my god!" So, but whenever recently after I did that song, she told me that she got a download saying, "Quote: He's a musician before anything. Make sure he doesn't forget."
Right,
and
and you
and
shouldn't.
so she texted me immediately and was like, "That's the quote I got." And I was like, "That's interesting you say that because I just started recording again, and then I got an invite from my friend Benji of Benji Tones to do like an open mic night, just acoustic guitar thing or whatever. And then the
Hmm.
same night, I was invited to a friend's house, and walking in, I didn't expect this. One of their roommates had just left, and what they left there was this entire portable music studio, like a looper,
Hmm.
keyboard, guitar rig setup where you could like hit with your foot a loop, and then I toyed with that for like 4 hours. That was the same night. So I was like, that's one, two, three, four. So I don't know what to do with it because music doesn't make any money. And I'm
No,
in a
but
position where if I
but
if I
it's
don't
something
go
you
back to
love.
work, yeah,
Right,
no,
I totally understand that. I had to go back to work myself, so I don't like
yeah,
it. I don't want to be a slave wage, but here I am. But
right. I,
but
I'm I'm in the spot right now where I'm comfortable enough, but if I have to get a new car, which might be coming up, or the kid or my son's going to be turning 16, I'm gonna have to. Right now, it pays my bills. I'm just past the tipping point of making the same money I did as a glazer.
right,
So
right,
so it comes down to where I might end up going back for a couple months or something like that, but that's all besides the point. I do love writing music and playing music. Just what has happened to music is so awful that it seems impossible. But
right,
if you know the same as I do, when it comes to alchemy, it doesn't matter if it seems impossible or not, because my YouTube channel was also impossible. So
right,
all I need to do is realize that there is a way to do it. Maybe a music video that goes viral. Maybe that Alanis Morissette cover. But that's what I've learned is instead of seeing those signs and then forcing my way through the signs to figure out what it is, I need to keep receiving them and let them take me along for
right,
the
right.
ride.
Well, that's how intuition works.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, I have another question for you.
Okay.
Are you going to be writing any more books?
I plan on writing 3 books.
Hmm.
And well, Book of Wonderful Suffering is obviously out, but it's supposed to be part of a 3-part thing. Book of Wonderful Suffering, Book of Unbelievable Truths, and Book of Unbearable Speculation. As you can see, each title is an oxymoron of the two nouns, and that's the idea. However, I have not received yet a proper book deal, and I've received offers for book deals, but none
But
of
not the
them
proper one.
have at all wanted to even come covering the expenses that I will be needing, because the next book I write is not going to be a paperback Barnes and Noble publishing book. I want hardback editions. I want full colored whatever. So even though I've received some and I got plenty of content for the books, by the way. They're ready.
Oh, I believe you. I know what you do.
Right, right. So I still have not received the proper offer for it. Maybe if somebody sees this, they can send it to
Right,
whoever, but I won't be going
right.
through Barnes and Noble publishing again. That was a mistake.
Okay.
To be blunt.
And so we is there anything you want to leave the audience, like anything that you want to talk about or anything that you would like to say?
Yeah. And this is something I said recently on a different podcast, but I think it bears repeating. A lot of people see the music and the YouTube channel, blah, 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 and they're always like asking me, "Hey, I want to do something too, or whatever,
Right,
but I don't know
that
where to
was me.
start." And they're always like, I can't do that because I don't have this, and I need to get that squashed and out of the way as soon. Anybody needs to get that out of the way as soon as possible, because I'm gonna tell you exactly how it works and what to do, and this is completely foolproof, and I guarantee it. If you fill out the sphere, metaphorically speaking, the sphere of what you're capable of doing currently right now, the next sphere will come to you. It'll fall on your lap. It'll knock on your door. There's no way around it. That's how the universe works. I don't know why. I don't know how, but that's what's going to happen. So people will be like, I want to do music, but I don't have a microphone. What they need to do is write. whatever they're going to do for the music. Basically, fill out what you possibly can do to 100% capacity. And it's like a black hole. Once that capacity is completely dense with everything that you could have possibly done toward it, it collapses in on itself and the next sphere comes. I can't tell you how many times this occurred to me. And when I tell people this, those who actually go about doing it, they witness the same thing. Dude, if you, whatever you're working on your car and you're like, oh, I can't do that because I don't have the carburetor I need. Get your car ready for that carburetor to 100% where it's ready to just be popped in. That carburetor is gonna find you. That's a bad example, but that's what to do if you want to write a book, but you don't have whatever. It's start writing on a fucking napkin or something. Like, it doesn't matter. With a YouTube channel, you're like, oh, I don't have a camera, or I don't have.
I'm on my phone, so
yeah,
my glasses are broke. But
I told this one girl, I was like, just start talking into your phone's audio recorder. That's all.
And I was doing that. You told me that too. And that's what I've been doing. And that's why I say you've helped me so much with my YouTube journey, because without you, I wouldn't be where I am today, to be honest, as far as in having the balls to ask people to let me interview them. And, like, oh, and you get on to me for my descriptions. You're so much better at writing than I am. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, I got to write something. You know what I mean?
The descriptions are honestly all about keywords. That's all.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I'll have to get better at that. But, I think that, like, you've given me inspiration to move forward in it, and to really, it's harder than it looks. It's not as hard as it looks,
right.
Like, once you start doing it, it gets easier. It's like music. The more you practice, the more the easier it gets.
Right. One step at a time. Do the thing in front of you, and don't worry about the next thing. It'll come when it's ready.
We've got 4.5 minutes. Plug yourself.
All right. Well, if the bread and butter, of course, is Library of the Untold on YouTube. And, obviously I'm supposed to say, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment and all that stuff, whatever, watch the videos. There's a playlist called All Documentaries where you can see all. People are always like, oh, I missed that episode. It's there. It's so don't let the algorithm find the video, bring the videos to you. There's a playlist on the Library of the Untold homepage called All Documentaries, and that's every full length I have. And if you get to that point and you want to explore a little bit further, of course, Void Stares Back is also on YouTube and Bandcamp. That's where I put my songs. My songs will not be appearing on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, Pandora, whatever those things are. I don't plan on uploading them to those ever. So if you're interested in the music, which is, I think, featured in your intro, it is Void Stares Back on YouTube.
And it's really good. It's a deep subject. That's what I would say. And that's why I wanted to call this Deep Waters, because I want to dive deep with people, not just glazed over, And I really, like I said, I do appreciate you and all the work that you've done on YouTube. It's really good to sit and listen to you and to watch it. The animation that you do, that is by far, bar none, so far that I have found on YouTube.
A lot of the animations are done by Cregon's Dark World, by the way.
Right. So and he's done a really good job. And so is there anything else you want to say with your 2 minutes?
The music reflects the channel.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them go hand in hand. And what else can I say with my last 2 minutes? I don't know. Amy Lee has a really cool song out called Speak to Me that nobody knows about. It's her solo project. It has nothing to do with me or this, but I was listening to it.
But I like Amy Lee. She started off in Arkansas. Huh?
Is that so? I did
yeah.
not know that.
My ex-husband went to high school with the lead guitarist of Evanescence,
I see.
So,
well, she's my future wife, and she doesn't know.
Oh, yeah?
Yet.
She's pretty.
Yeah,
she's
she'll
super
find
pretty.
out soon. I don't know. She's gonna get my
Sleep
letter.
Token. I'm gonna marry the lead vocalist of Sleep Token.
There you go. Perfect. I hope he's not ugly. You better.
I don't have a clue. He wears a mask. It's the voice. We all, and you know that it's the voice, Joey. It's the voice. Because your voice, that voice of yours, is what gets you, right?
I suppose a lot of people think I use AI, but
right.
I don't. But maybe that's
So
the last thing I should say with my last 30 seconds. I can do voices, and so can a lot of people. Y'all are
yes.
fucking weird, thinking like, how automated is the world now that people assume that I can't lower my voice a couple
Do it
fucking tones
now.
to make an intro. Oh, if
Do it now.
I was to talk like this, or
Right, right,
we want
right.
to like
Hello,
uh,
how are
the
you?
unspeakable mind of uncrackable men. Like it's not difficult to speak differently, and it's fun to do. It makes a nice cinematic intro.
But you're a musician, a vocalist, so
That's true.
you're used to moving your vocals up and down. So
That's true. So it's part of it.
yes, it
Right.
is. But okay. Well, I like I said so many times, I appreciate you, even your dad jokes. And it was great having you here, and I enjoy it. I hope everybody else enjoys it. This was Deep Waters with Cheryl and Joey. You guys have a great night.
Thank you.